Hey, welcome back. Okay, picture this. You're at the closing table. There's a mountain of paperwork in front of you, but you're almost there. You can almost taste the keys to your new home. But then, what happens if there's a mistake on that big important document, the closing disclosure? Let's dive in and figure out exactly where the buck stops. So let's just get right to the heart of it. A fee is wrong, a number is off. Maybe the whole document is delivered late. Who's legally on the hook for that? Is it the lender, the one who gave you the money? Or is it the closing agent who's managing all the paperwork at the table? This is a really crucial question, and it's something you absolutely have to know, especially if you're studying for your NMLS exam.
To get to that answer, we first have to really understand the two main players in this whole drama. The creditor, which, is just the official term for the lender, and the settlement agent, who you might call the closing agent or maybe the title company. They both have super important jobs, but believe me, their level of responsibility is completely different.
Here's the best way to think about it. The creditor? They're the team captain. They're the ones calling the shots, setting the whole strategy, and at the end of the day, they're the one responsible for the final score. Now, the settlement agent, they're like the star quarterback out on the field. They're the ones executing those plays, managing all the game day logistics, and making things happen. Both are totally essential to winning the game, but only one of them is truly in charge.
So let's talk about that team captain first, the creditor. Their role isn't just important, it comes with a ton of legal weight. There's a whole set of federal rules that they have to follow, no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And that rulebook is called TRID, which stands for the TILA-RESPA Integrated Disclosure Rule. It's a big deal because TRID was created for one main reason: to protect you, the consumer. It's all about making sure the numbers and terms you were promised are exactly what you get at the closing table. And TRID puts that responsibility squarely on the creditor's shoulders.
And that brings us to maybe the single most important point of this entire explainer. When it comes to the borrower's closing disclosure, it is the creditor, the lender, who is ultimately responsible. And I'm not talking partially or sometimes, I mean always, 100%. They have to make sure every single digit on that page is accurate.
Now, that responsibility also comes with a really strict timeline, and it all revolves around the number 3. That's the number of business days the creditor has to give you to review your final closing disclosure before you're allowed to actually close on the loan. It's a mandatory waiting period.
So you might be wondering, what happens if something big changes at the last minute? Well, that 3-day clock can actually start all over again. There are a few major triggers for this. If your APR, your annual percentage rate, changes by a certain amount, or if the entire loan product gets switched, or if, out of nowhere, a prepayment penalty is added. Boom! The creditor has to issue a brand new closing disclosure, and you get a fresh 3 days to review it.
And here's the kicker. The creditor can't just pass the buck. They can ask the settlement agent for help, for sure. They can even have the settlement agent deliver the document for them. But that legal liability, it doesn't go anywhere. It stays firmly and completely with the creditor.
Okay, so if the creditor is carrying all that legal risk, what in the world is the settlement agent actually doing? Well, think of them as the essential on-the-ground coordinator. Their job is to make sure the captain's game plan is executed perfectly.
And their to-do list is absolutely critical. For one, they usually prepare the seller's version of the closing disclosure. They also have to provide the creditor with all the accurate local fees, things like title insurance, recording fees, and transfer taxes, so the creditor can plug those numbers into the borrower's CD. And then, on the big day, they're the ones who balance all the money and make sure every single person gets paid correctly.
So yeah, the agent's job is absolutely vital. You can't have a smooth closing without them. But it's all done in a supporting role. When it comes down to your closing disclosure, the borrower's CD, they are working under the direction and the authority of the creditor. They are the quarterback, running the plays that the captain called.
All right, we've looked at both players, we've seen their roles. Now it's time to put it all together and get to the final, undeniable verdict on who is responsible.
Let's just look at this side by side. It makes it crystal clear. If you look at that liability row, what does it say? The creditor bears all legal liability for the borrower's CD under federal TRID rules. The agent's role is to assist. The creditor is responsible for the loan terms and calculations. The agent is responsible for making sure the money gets where it needs to go at closing. It really is a clean, clear division of who holds that ultimate legal responsibility.
So, if you only take one single thing away from this explainer today, please let it be this. This is the exam tip you just have to burn into your memory. The creditor is always ultimately responsible for the accuracy and the timing of the borrower's closing disclosure. Full stop.
The settlement agent helps, but the legal buck stops with the creditor. And that leaves us with one final, pretty big thought. Okay, so now we know who is on the hook. But that just begs another question, right? What are the penalties for getting it wrong? What actually happens to a creditor if they don't comply? Well, that's a juicy topic for another time. Thanks for joining me.